أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah ta'ala, we will continue our sessions in the Sirah of Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and this is the fourth session. Last time we talked about how Uthman was appointed as a Khalifa and the full process and how Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu nominated 6 among the Sahaba who were promised Jannah: Uthman, Ali, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Talha, and some more. And when I was reading this time, I noticed that Sa'id ibn Zayd, he was also among the 10 promised Jannah, and he was the cousin of Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. But Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he did not want to, get this position to any of his relatives. And even when he added Abdullah ibn Umar to the committee, he added him as a consultant, not to be part of the nominees. So he was trying to avoid this as much as he can. So we did talk about this. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we will talk about Uthman as a Khalifa, as a ruler. And we will, if we have enough time, inshallah ta'ala, we'll cover 3 areas. Number 1, the expansion of the state at the time of Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Then we will talk about building the first fleet in the Muslim history. And then we will talk about one of the major issues that Uthman took care of, which is copying the Quran on the tongue of Quraysh. And we will talk about this in detail. But before we go deep in this, Umar radiallahu anhu, when he was advising the Sahaba on how to proceed, and after he gave them the full instruction what to do, and he gave them like a deadline for 3 days, and he told them what to do, and he said, and he appointed 50 among the Ansar to protect those 6 people during the negotiations and the shura on choosing a Khalifa after Umar. And he said, for example, if 5 agree and 1 did not agree, kill him. If 4 agree and 2 did not agree, kill these 2. He's talking about what? Talking about people who were promised Jannah. And the order was very clear in front of all of the Sahaba, and none of them has any objection. How would you kill somebody from the Sahaba? Because they all know from the death of the Prophet ﷺ that this is a very serious and crucial matter, which is the Muslims cannot stay more than 3 days without a ruler. And then he said, if they are divided into 3 and 3, then at this point you would go and consult Abdullah bin Umar. And if the consultation of Abdullah bin Umar did not work, then choose the one among the group of Abd al-Rahman ibn Auf. So he gave them full details. We did talk about this last time. And then after he gave the instructions, he addressed them with a very long, beautiful advice. I just want to mention some of it. Number 1, he said, whoever takes this position, I advise him to keep the governors that I appointed and the rulers that I appointed on the geography of the Islamic State, to keep them in position for at least 1 year. Number 2, he said, I replaced Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. He was the governor of Kufa. And he said, I did not replace him due to any issues with Sa'd. So anyone takes over this position, I advise him and I give him a nasiha to appoint Sa'd one more time. And the most important, and he emphasized in this, he said, whoever takes this position, he should not appoint any of his relatives in any of the Muslim ruling positions for the sake of his relatives. Do not look at your relatives, he is my cousin, he is my nephew, he is my whatever, and you go and you appoint him. He says, لا تحملوا أقاربكم على رقاب الناس. What you need to look for, the skilled people, even if they are from your relatives, the skilled people, but don't appoint any of your relatives because he is your relative. And he was addressing them one by one. He said to Uthman, "Oh Uthman, if that comes to you, this position comes to you, make sure you don't prefer Bani Abd Manaf or Bani Umayyah." And he said the same to Ali, "Do not prefer Bani Hashim," and so on. So he was very careful, and he was very worried about this, and he did not even appoint any of his relatives, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhum. So once the bay'ah took place and Uthman became the Khalifa, the narration says that was the most smooth bay'ah ever. Did not see an agreement among the people of Quraysh on a Khalifa as they have seen it on Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. When Uthman took over, he stood on the minbar of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he addressed the ummah. Very short speech, but very important. He said, and the narration says when he came, he was very, very sad because he became like the responsible person about the whole Muslim ummah. So he stood on the minbar of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he did salah on the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he said, "Innakum fi dari qul'ah wa fi baqiyati a'mar." You are living in a dunya that is short. Qul'ah means like when you go on a trip, temporary trip in this dunya. Wa fi baqiyati a'mar, and I mean, you are towards the end of your ages. And he said, فَبَادِرُوا آجَالَكُمْ بِخَيْرِ مَا تَقْدَرُونَ عَلَيْهِ. بَادِرُوا آجَالَكُمْ. That means hasten to do good deeds before you die. Before you die. فَلَقَدْ أُوتِيتُمْ صَبِحْتُمْ أَمْ مَسِيتُمْ. You might die either in the morning or in the evening. And he said, ألا وإن الدنيا طويت على الغرور فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. And he said that this dunya was built about being like fooled. Don't be fooled by this dunya. Don't be dragged to this dunya. واعتبروا بمن مضى, and take the lessons from those people who died. ثم جدوا. Do the best of your effort in pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تَغْفَلُوا. Do not be neglected. Do not neglect the fact, or do not sleep, do not relax, or do not get lazy when it comes to the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said, أَيْنَ أَبْنَاءُ الدُّنْيَا وَإِخْوَانُهَا الذين آثروها وعمروها ومتعوا بها طويلا. He says, where are those people who built this dunya, who lived for this dunya, who lived in this dunya, who made money in this dunya, who preferred this dunya, and they enjoyed this dunya for a long time? Where are they? ألم تلفظهم. Did the dunya expel them? ارموا الدنيا حيث رمى الله بها. Throw this dunya the same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. And then he gave them an example of this dunya from Surah Al-Kahf. وَضُرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ فَأَصْبَحَ هَشِيمًا تَذْرُوهُ الرِّيَاحُ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ مُقْتَدِرًا. الْمَالُ وَالْبَنُونَ زِينَةُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَالْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتُ خَيْرٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ ثوابا وخير أملا. وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا. Give them an example of this dunya like what? Like a rain comes from the heavens, got mixed with the plants of the earth, and this plant comes fruitfully good, and then where it ends up, it will dry, die, and it will be blown away by the wind. This is the dunya. What is the best then? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا. Al-mal, commodity, money, and kids are the beauty of this dunya. However, the good deeds are to be left to you, which is better for you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he ended his speech. Very strong speech. And then he wrote a letter to all of his governors. And he said, أما بعد فإن الله أمر الأئمة أن يكونوا رعاة ولم يتقدم إليهم أن يكونوا جباه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the rulers to take care of the affairs of the people. To take care of the people did not make them collectors to collect the money from the people. وَإِنَّ صَدْرَ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ خُلِقُوا رُعَاةً. The first generation of this ummah, they were created as ru'ah, as rulers, true rulers who takes care of the affairs of the people, who lives for the people. وَلَمْ يُخْلَقُوا جُبَاهًا. And they were not created as collectors. وَلَيُوشِكَنَّ أَئِمَّتَكُمْ أَن يَصِيرُوا جُبَاهًا وَلَا يَكُونُوا رُعَاةً. But unfortunately, short later, that the imma and the rulers, they will end up being jubah, collectors, not ru'ah, not taking care of the affairs of the people. فإذا عادوا كذلك انقطع الحياء والأمانة والوفاء. If they become like this, jubah, collectors, not true rulers to take care of the people, then expect modesty will go away, the trust will go away, and the covenants and the wafa will go away. That's what we see nowadays. That's what we see nowadays. Actually, he had so many letters that he wrote to the army, to the rest of the people. From the first day he was appointed, just to explain and to show that this is my policy, which is very similar to the policy of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, because that was the condition of the bay'ah. The condition of the bay'ah is to rule with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and to do the same thing Umar and Abu Bakr did. So that was the beginning of the ruling of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. As we said, Uthman ruled for 12 years. 10 years of these 12, it was a continuous jihad to stabilize the borders lands that revolted after the death of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and to continue opening more lands and to spread Islam. But as we said, unfortunately, when we read about Uthman, the focus come about what? The fitna. That's what's unfortunately, that's what's in the mind of the majority of the Muslimin. When we talk about Uthman, it's fitna, which is wrong. Uthman did big, huge achievement, as we will say, and as we will see inshallah ta'ala. So before Uthman, when the land of the Muslim expanded almost in all directions. So by the end of Umar's ruling, the Muslim expanded in North Africa up to Tripoli, Trablus in Libya. That's in the west. And in the north, all of Bilad al-Sham, except certain areas. And east, almost most of the Persians, including Azerbaijan, Armenia, Kazakhstan, Khorasan, all of these areas were under the ruling of Islam. However, these were all in the edges. So the Muslims did not have enough to leave, enough army, enough troops to live there to control that area. So they used to come back to their bases. Like the base in the east was Al-Kufa. So they come back, they assemble one more time, prepare the army, then they move on. There was a base in Al-Iskandariya, and there is a base in Damascus. So they used to do this. So these areas on the edges and the borders, most of the time, or not most of the time, between time and another time, they used to revolt. And they used to stop paying the jizya. And at the same time, Romans also, they were watching and monitoring and seeing the news inside the capital of Islam, which is Al-Madinah. So when the news came that Umar died, Those people on the edges, or the Romans, they thought that the Muslims are very weak now. They are not strong anymore. So Armenia, Azerbaijan, these countries in the borders from the east side, they revolt against the Islamic State, and they said, we are not paying the jizya anymore. Now, like after the death of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So they thought, now we can go back to where we were before Islam. So what Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu do? What did he do? How did he radiallahu ta'ala handle this? We will talk about this in areas. And let's start from the west. So the moment Umar died and the news came out that Umar died, the Romans, they prepared a campaign and they attacked Alexandria, which was under the ruling of Islam. It happened that Amr ibn al-As, the governor of Egypt, was in Medina. The same thing, Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, the governor of Kufa, he was in Medina. Most of them, they were there, maybe like to report to Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, to give him reports or the status, whatever, but they were there. So this was, for the Romans, there was an opportunity. So they came, they took over Alexandria, and they moved out until almost they reached a city called Babylon. Babylon is Cairo, close to? Yeah, almost. Babylon, that was the city. So right away, Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu commanded Amr ibn al-As with an army to go back and fix the issue over there. So he went and he fought with the Romans, and he kept like pushing them back until they got inside the walls of Alexandria. And Amr ibn al-As did not even wait. He started shooting with the manjaniq, what they call the cannibals, until he damaged even the walls, and he entered forcefully. The first time he entered through a treaty. At the time of Umar al-Khattab, he entered Alexandria through a treaty, but this time he entered by force. He just wanted to teach them a lesson. When he entered and people, they surrendered, he found that the Romans, they took so much money from the farmers. And the farmers came to Amr ibn al-As and telling him, well, we did not break the treaty with you. We are still fulfilling our covenant with you. But this is happened by force, and this is our money. So Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, he returned them all of their money after they proved that this belonged to them. So this bring Egypt to a stable status one more time. Amr ibn al-As, during the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he kept asking Umar, should we proceed after Tripoli? Umar used to say no. I don't want to expand more and more, where you reach an area that it's gonna be like tough and difficult on me to support you. What I want you to focus on the people of that land, to make sure that Islam comes like firm in their hearts. Islam comes strong in their hearts, and then you could use those people and proceed. So that was the policy of Umar. Umar did not like to move fast. He used to ask his rulers and army, go slowly, and don't go into an area where it's tough and difficult on me to support you. When Uthman came, he put, after a year of course, he put Abdullah ibn Abi Sarh as a governor of Egypt. And he asked him to proceed after Tripoli, after Libya, what we know like Tripoli, the capital of Libya right now. So he moved towards west, which called Africa, until he reached an area which now called Al-Qayrawan, which is in Tunis. With his army was Az-Zubayr opening the lands one after another. That was based on the command of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So he moved with a force, an army towards Tripoli. After Tripoli he went west, and he found over there like some of the ships for Romans. He took over these and he met with the Romans over there in a place called Subaytila. A place called Subaytila, just south of Al-Qayrawan. As I said, Abdullah ibn Sarh and Az-Zubayr ibn Awam was in the army, and many of the Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim. The chief of the army of the Romans his name was Jarjir. They asked him to retreat. They asked him to surrender. They asked him for Islam, and then he refused. So there was no option but to fight. So they went into a fight. And Az-Zubayr ibn Awam radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he managed to kill Jarjir, and then that area at the time of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu became under the control of Islam. Under the control of Islam. There are some narration says that in the year 33 Hijri, they broke the treaty one more time, but Abdullah ibn Sarh, he dealt with them right away and he brought them back to Islam. After they managed to stabilize that area, there was a news that An-Nuba, which is Sudan now, which is south of Egypt, that one, the people over there, whoever ruled that area, they tried to do like some troubles against Egypt. Now, so Abdullah ibn Abi Sarh, right away he moved back from there and he managed to sign a treaty, and that treaty lasted for almost 700 years. And the end of that treaty was Sudan entered Islam through treaty or through peaceful process, not through war. So Sudan also came in the area or came under the control of Islam at the time of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu. That's basically like general overview of what happens in the West. Now let's move to the East. When we talk about the East, we're talking about Khorasan, we're talking about Azerbaijan, we're talking about Armenia, we're talking about the rest of Persia. Some of these cities and places, they revolt against the Islamic State. Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, at that time he appointed Al-Walid ibn Uqba as a governor of Al-Kufa. So he commanded him to proceed and to go and take care of this. I will start like now mentioning some names and some areas. It might not stick in your mind, which is okay. And just the idea is to see that Uthman, within this 10 years, his time was not fitna or was not as they claim. The 10 years of Uthman was all jihad, all opening new lands, stabilizing more of this land. So, Al-Walid ibn Uqba, he went back to Azerbaijan and Armenia because the people over there, they broke the treaty that was given to Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman at the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. So they came back under the rule of Islam. And then the Amir of Khorasan, which is in that area, Umayr ibn Uthman, he reached the Farghana Valley. You know Farghana Valley? Do you know geography? Do you know where is Azerbaijan, Armenia? No? I had a map, but subhanallah, I should have just put the map and put it in the... You know Central Asia? Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all of these Stan areas? We're talking about that area. All the way northeast. Wadi Farghana, it's the valley between Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, over there. That's the area. So that area was under the control of Islam at the time of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhum. This happened on the year 29 Hijri. In the year 29 Hijri. Not that only. Another area called Sajistan. The Amir of that area was Abdullah ibn Umayr al-Laythi. He kept going in the east. He kept going until he entered Kabul. You know Kabul, right? The capital of Afghanistan. So even Afghanistan at that time, Islam reached Afghanistan at that time, also at the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu. Not that only. And Abdullah ibn Ma'mar al-Tamimi, he kept going until he reached the river of Sindh. Where is that? India? India. So that's also at the time of Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Moreover, Abdullah ibn Amir, he moved to another area called Jerjan. And he did not fight with them. They agreed to do like a treaty to pay 200,000 dirhams as a jizya on a yearly basis. And then he continued in Persia, chasing who? Do you know the name of the king of Persia? The last king of Persia. You don't know? Do you remember like Umar series? You don't see him? No. His name was Yazdajird. Yazdajird. Yazdajird, after the battle of Al-Qadisiyah, he ran away towards the east in a place called Astakhar. And then after the battle of Nahawand, he kept running away until he was like chased by Abdullah ibn Amr, until he reached some area in Persia and he was killed over there. So by this, the area of Persia became under the control of Islam under the ruling of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And there's a lot of names, like for example, a city of Tos, Abyord, Nasa, Blach, Barkhas. All of these areas in the way, all of them in the way they entered in the ruling of Islam through treaties. So this is in the east, in the east. So in the east, Persia, the Fergana Valley, Kabul, Armenia, Azerbaijan, all of these areas, within the 10 years of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the Muslimin, they managed to bring the areas that revolted against Islam and yet to move even beyond. So 10 years, the time of Uthman, 10 years without resting, without relaxing. He kept sending army after an army from Kufa. And then from Sham, north, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, he was the governor of Bilad al-Sham from the time of Umar. So he kept moving north until he reached the borders of a city called Ammuria, which is now called Ankara, the capital of Turkey right now, Ankara. He reached that area and calling and spreading Islam. So this is like a summary. This is like a lot of details, a lot of names that we could even talk about, but that's not the point. The point is to show that 10 years of Uthman time, it was jihad in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and opening more and more lands. Not that only. Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu was the first to build the Islamic fleet. The Islamic fleet, it has a very interesting story. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, who was the governor of Ash-Sham, he kept asking Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, give me the permission to cruise in the sea and to take over and to spread Islam on so many lands in the Mediterranean Sea. Umar radiallahu anhu, as we said, it was not his style. Umar radiallahu anhu, his style was to move slowly. And he doesn't even know what's this sea and how it looks like and what's the danger. Umar would not even send a single Muslim into danger. But Muawiyah, he kept like begging him, he kept asking him. And one time he sent Umar a letter, he said, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's easier than what you think. A village from the city of Homs in Bilad al-Sham, in Syria, almost in the middle of Syria. He said, the people of a single village can hear the voices of the dogs and the chickens of the people of Cyprus. So he's trying to convince him, he's trying to push him. Then Umar started thinking about this and he said, wait, let me get back to you. But Umar, he wanted to ask somebody about this sea, how it looks like. So he sent a letter to the expertise, to Amr ibn al-As, and he told him, describe the sea for me. That's it, just give me a description of this sea. Amr ibn al-As, he sent maybe like 4 or 5 lines. Very beautiful description that shocked the heart of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Let me read it in Arabic first and then I will try to translate it as much as I can. So he said, صفر البحر ركبه في النفس تنازعني. He said, إني رأيت خلقا كبيرا يركبه خلق صغير إن ركن خرق القلوب وإن تحرك أزاغ العقول يزداد فيه اليقين قلة والشك كثرة هم فيه كدود على عود إن مال غرق وإن نجا برق. That's it. This is the description of Amr ibn al-As about the sea. That description really shocked the heart of Umar. Let's translate. He said, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have seen numerous people going upon it. Okay? And he said, I have seen, let's just use my own translation. I have seen a tiny small creation cruising over a huge creation. And he said, when it comes, it tends the heart. And when it's in motion, it twists the brain. It scares the people. It weaknesses the confidence and the strength and strengthens the doubt. It weaknesses the confidence and it strengthens the doubt. There is nothing there but the sky and the water. Nothing there, just as-sama'u wal-ma'. People at sea like worm on a long piece of wood. If their boat inclines, they sink. And if they survive, they are dazed. So basically he's telling him about a creation, about the sea, that it's not easy to get into the sea. So that really shocked the heart of Umar. And he sent a letter to Muawiyah and told him, don't ever ask me this. Never ask me this. In another narration he said, this sea every day in the morning he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for permission to swallow the land. I will never send a single Muslim to ride on this kafir. So he called the sea kafir. How do you want me to send this? To send like any soldier to cruise in this sea? He said, never ask me again about this. So Muawiyah, he stopped. He realized that this is serious. This is serious. Now when Uthman took over, Muawiyah thought that, well, there could be a chance now. So he starts sending letters to Uthman. Uthman at the beginning, he said, no, I'm not going to do this. So he insists and insists and insists, and Uthman told him, okay, I will give you the permission with one condition. Do not force anyone to get in the sea. Make it as volunteer. And anyone volunteer to go with you, he must take all of his family with him. He should not leave his family behind him. He doesn't know what's going to happen. So all of you go together. So once he get the permission, Muawiyah also, he had also another vision actually, because these islands, they were all under the control of the Romans. And it was still a big threat on the shores of Bilad al-Sham and the shores of Africa. So he wanted to build a fleet also to protect these lands, not just to go and open the lands. No, he wanted to create some sort of protection as well in the sea. So right away, Muawiyah, he started building the fleet in different cities, in Syria, in Palestine, and in Egypt, both at the same time. Once that was done, and they built the fleet, Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, himself, he was with the fleet, and with him many of the Sahaba, such as Abu Dharr al-Ghafari, Ubadah ibn al-Samit, and his wife. His wife, her name was Haram bintu Milhan. And there's a beautiful story about Haram. Haram, she was related to the Prophet ﷺ from his father's side. And she used to live close to Masjid Quba. And she said every time Rasulullah ﷺ would come and visit the Masjid of Quba, he used to come and visit us. And I used to serve him some food. So one time he came, Rasulullah ﷺ, he came and he came to our house, to the house of Ubadah ibn Samit and his wife, Haram. And she said, I served him a food, he ate and he slept, the Prophet ﷺ. Then he woke up smiling. Then she said, Oh Rasulullah, what make you smile? He said, I have seen in my dream that some of my followers cruising in the green sea, those are the kings of the thrones, or like the kings of the thrones, they are going in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then she said, Oh Rasulullah, ask Allah to make me like among them. Then he said, you are among them. Then he slept, woke up, smiling, the same thing. Then she said one more time, Oh Rasulullah, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make me among them. He said, you are among the first people to go into this journey. So she was with Muawiyah in that journey to the island of Qobrus or Cyprus. So when they reached there, there was not like much of resistance. However, the people, they refused to enter Islam, and they agreed on the treaty to pay the jizya to Muawiyah. And the army of Islam landed the first time they landed in the year 28 Hijri in that island, under the leadership of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, with also Abdullah ibn Abi Sarh, the governor of Egypt, because he joined the fleet as well. But the chief of the army at that time was Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. What happened to Haram? Haram, she was riding her horse, doing jihad in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then she fell down her back and she died, and her grave still in the island of Cyprus. So that was the first time where the Muslims ride on the sea and achieve and open an island. Now, this one also created a big concern to the Romans themselves and to the king of Romans. His name was Constantine. So Constantine, he started preparing a fleet as well to knock down the fleet of the Muslims. To knock down the fleets of the Muslims, and he built 500 ships. 500 ships. When the news came to Abdullah ibn Abi Sarh, who was later on appointed as the chief of the fleet, of the Muslim fleet. As a matter of fact, after the opening of Cyprus, the Muslimin, they continues like taking island after another. It's not just that one. There's like a lot of details about this. Island after another in the Mediterranean Sea. So the Romans, they were so scared. They were so scared. So Constantine, he decided to also launch another campaign to destroy the fleet of the Muslimin. So he built, as we said, 500 ships. And he started moving towards Cyprus. When Abdullah ibn Abi Sarh heard this, right away he commanded the fleet to move and to meet them in the sea. So they kept moving and moving and moving, and then till they met north of Cyprus, close to Turkey, between Turkey and Cyprus, over there. During the night, before the battle, that's called the Battle of As-Sawari, or the Battle of Masts. The mast is the middle of the ship, that big pole in the ship. That's called Saria. Sawari is the plural of that one. It's called, I think, masts in English. I don't know, that's what I found. Right? Good, Umar? Jazakallah khair. Thank you. So what happens? Before the battle, Abdullah ibn Sarh, he said, what should we do? Then the Muslims told him, let's wait until the morning and we'll find out. So during the night, 200 ships of the Muslims, they spend their night in dua and reading Quran. And 500 ships of the Romans, they spend their nights, playing with their bills, preparing the fight. So in the morning, these ships, 500 versus 200, they kept getting closer and closer and closer to each other until they attached to each other. And then they tied those masts together. That's why they call it that Sawari, or the battle of masts. So what happens then? All these ships became a battlefield over the sea. And from the morning, one of the most decisive battles that took place in the history of Islam at the time of Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, led by Abdullah ibn Abi Sarh, the governor of Egypt. And the battle ended up with a great defeat of the Romans, and Constantine himself could not even wait, and he ran away, and most of his army were killed. And they say the sea was dyed with blood until the blood even reached the shores of Turkey with the dead bodies. I mean, the sea just like dropped them over there. And after that battle called That Sawari, that sea became to be known the Sea of Arab. Before that, they used to call it the Sea of Romans. And after that battle, the one who dominates that part of the sea was the Muslimin. That's also, again, at the time of Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. At Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So this is like, as I said, maybe like a brief or summary, if you will, about the expansion of the Islamic State during Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, as we said, in the east area, which is like Persia, Central Asia, or part of Central Asia, Farghana valleys, Kabul, the river of Sindh, and in the west, Sudan, Egypt, North Libya, and Tunis. All of these land became the land of the Muslimin under the control of Islam, under the ruling of Islam, during the time of Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And this is in 10 years only. 10 years. At that time, I mean, you might not achieve much in it, but that's what happened. So Uthman radiyallahu anhu was able to stabilize the areas that revolt against Islam and Muslimin, and yet to move beyond and to build the fleet and to control the sea. So that is the first part, or the first and second part I wanted to cover today. And the last part, inshallah ta'ala, which is one of the most crucial part actually, which is very important, which is Quran. Quran. The way, that's what we call, like, you see when you read sometimes Rasmu Uthman, or this is the copy of Uthman. That's what we see right now. This is the Quran that Uthman copied and collected at that time. So what happens? Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the one who opened Azerbaijan and Armenia, and he was the governor of Azerbaijan even after Uthman comes in power. Of course, he lived with Ajam. And Ajam here means a non-Arabic speaking people. All right? So he noticed that there is different way of reciting Quran. different way of reciting and reading Quran. So that brought like a big alert in the minds of Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman. And he looked at this as a big threat that's dangerous. There's something serious that has to be addressed at once. So he traveled by himself all the way from Azerbaijan to Medina, and he met with Uthman and he said, أنا النذير العريان أنا النذير العريان فأدرك الأمة. I am the warner, naked warner. أدرك الأمة. You have to do something to protect the ummah. What's going on? What's going on is I have seen people reading Quran in different ways. That is not the right reading. That is not the tongue of Quraysh. That is not the tongue, that's not Arabic. And this will lead to what? That will lead to what? That will lead to different interpretation of Quran. Yani for example, when you hear somebody says, for example, كالفراش المبثوث, when you hear it saying كالفراش المبثوث, something like this. This is not reading Quran. Right? I'm sorry for you guys. It's not. I mean, this is serious. It was serious at that time. When you say mabthuth and mabsus, that's completely different meaning, different word, different Quran. So that was brought the attention of Hudayfa radiallahu anhu to come and address, and he said, "Adrik al-ummah, adrik al-ummah." Yani you have to do something before it's too late. So Uthman right away, he acted right away, and he gathered the Sahaba and he said, "What should we do?" Then he said, Uthman radiallahu anhu, he said, what we have to do is we need to go and get the original copy of Quran that was collected and assembled at the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and that copy was kept by Hafsa radiallahu anha. So he appointed Zayd ibn Thabit as, a head of a committee. That included Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Sa'id ibn al-As, wa Abdul Rahman ibn Harith ibn Hisham, and Uthman ordered them to copy the Quran as the people of Quraysh recited, because they are the core of the language, and Quran was revealed at the beginning. It was revealed to them, so they know the recitation, the actual and good recitation of Quran. And he said, if you see any differences, go and check on the harf of Quraysh, or on the tongue of Quraysh. And once you're done, bring me these copies. So that's why we have like, how many qira'ah? 6, 7 qira'at? 7 qira'at. This is the time of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And all of them from the tongue of the Arab. All right? For example, when we read Quran, what do we say? وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. Another recitation says with وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. Also a true reading of Quran. So he collected the Quran in 7 copies, and he commanded them to copy these copies of Quran and send them to everywhere, every place in the Islamic State, and to collect any other copy and burn it. And burn it. Don't keep any other copy. So that was one of the biggest achievement that Uthman radiallahu anhu took care and did. Later on, the people of they call it in Arabic Ghawgha, those people who came and occupied the Medina and they did the revolution against Uthman, they took this one as what? As an issue that Uthman did, which he's not supposed to do. How could he go and burn the copy of Quran that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud used to have? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he was one of the Sahaba who memorized the whole Quran. So how could you go and command him to burn his copy and give him another copy? We will address this one and talk about in more details and clarify that inshallah ta'ala. So that is what I want to talk about tonight, which is the achievements that Uthman radiallahu anhu did in terms of expansion, stabilizing the Muslim land, and building the fleet, and controlling the sea, and collecting and copying the Quran on one copy, which is the tongue of Quraysh. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العلي العظيم لي ولكم.